Gunmen from the militant group Al-Shabaab attack a university in Kenya. We'll have a live report. The World Health Organization issues an urgent call to ramp up routine immunizations. And a fuzzy bunny's big dream of being a tiny pilot goes viral. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Gunmen from the Somali-based terrorist group Al-Shabaab attacked Garissa University in northeastern Kenya shortly after 5 a.m. local time Thursday, killing at least 17 people. But now multiple media outlets are reporting that the death toll may be as high as 70. More than 60 were wounded. Kenya's Interior Ministry says that one suspect was arrested while trying to flee the scene. The university remains on lockdown while security forces try to flush out the perpetrators who are believed to be holding students hostage in one of the residence halls. It is unclear how many assailants were involved in the violent attack. Kenya's Disaster Operations Agency says at least 280 of the university's 800-plus students have been accounted for, and efforts are underway to track down the rest. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack a few hours after it began shortly Thursday morning. In a statement, the Islamist militant said the attack is revenge for Kenya's troops fighting in Somalia. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta addressed the nation after the attack.
I am indeed very saddened to inform the nation that early today terrorists attacked Garissa University College, killed and wounded several people, and have taken others hostage. The full details of casualties will be communicated in due course by the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, who is coordinating operations with the Inspector General of Police in Garissa. On my own behalf, on behalf of my government, I extend condolences to the families of those who have perished in this attack. We continue to pray for the quick recovery of the injured and the safe rescue of those still being held hostage. I also assure the nation that my government has undertaken appropriate deployment to the affected area and is fully seized of the situation. I also take this opportunity to urge Kenyans to stay calm as we resolve this matter and to provide the authorities with any information they may have in connection with any threats to our security. This is a moment for everyone throughout the country to be vigilant as we confront and defeat our enemies.
Kenya's Red Cross says 65 casualties have been taken to a local hospital, most with gunshot wounds. It says 5 of the wounded were airlifted to Nairobi for treatment. Now, for the latest on this unfolding situation, we turn to Ado Jubat, a Kenyan journalist who joins us by phone from just outside Garissa University campus. Ado, describe to us what's happening at the campus right now as we speak.
And as we are speaking now, the campus has been cordoned off by heavy armed security officers and rescue officers, and supported by many vehicles, and even aerial and many military helicopters have been hovering around to make sure that the remaining hostage who have been hostage are rescued safely. So there's a lot of activity going around the college, and some hostages are still there, although we don't know the exact number of the hostages still held there.
Now, Ado, we are hearing conflicting reports about the exact numbers of those who've been killed. What do you know?
And the latest, just few, I think 5 minutes ago, the Minister for Internal Security, Joseph Olinicher, have told us that the 70 are now confirmed dead, 70 students, and 79 of them are admitted various hospitals in Garissa town. So 9 among the injuries who had serious wounds have been airlifted to Nairobi for specialized treatment.
Now, we hear there has been a curfew that has been announced by the government for all those towns around Garissa, right?
Yes, that's right. And the minister in charge of internal security, Joseph and retired Major Joseph have really announced a 2-week curfew starting from tonight up to 16th of this month in 3 counties within a northeastern region, which are namely Garissa, Mandera, and Wajir towns. So he said there will be no night movement starting from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the next 14 days.
And one person was arrested, suspected to be one of the terrorists, right?
And according to the minister, he said 4 of the terrorists have been killed and by the officers who have raided the place. And he said another one has been arrested. So that one, they didn't say where he's been held currently, but they said he's at the hand of security officers for more interrogations.
Ado, thank you very much. Ado Jubat is a Kenyan journalist speaking to us live from just outside the Garissa University campus. Well, for more on how Kenya is handling this situation, VOA's East Africa correspondent Gabe Joslo joins us live via Skype from Nairobi. Gabe, first, we hear that actually students in that university have been expressing concerns about their security. What do you know about this?
Well, I spoke to some students from Garissa University College shortly after the attack. They had escaped just barely after being woken up by gunfire. And they said, a lot of them said that they had come from other parts of Kenya. One girl I spoke to came from the Mount Elgon area. And she said she was always worried about coming to Garissa because of past security incidents there. They said that one person told me that she may have heard a warning that such an attack would be on its way. The warnings like this were being spread at other universities in Kenya. But I think there was overall a sense of fear about being in that place even before this attack.
Now we know for a long time residents and even those civil servants who are posted to that region have been saying they want to see the presence of more security personnel. Was this part of the issue around that university, that there were not enough policemen or security men?
Well, that's the issue that's being discussed right now. What we've heard is that there were some security guards on call that last night when this attack took place, 2 of them were killed by the Al-Shabaab militants at the start of the attack. Garissa is also an area that is heavily watched by Kenyan Defense Forces. So the military was able to move in pretty quickly after the attack began again. But yes, you will hear more talk from especially local officials saying that even more needs to be done for security, more needs to be done to plug up the border, and we'll see what President Kenyatta and his administration have to say about that.
Now very quickly, we know this is the second major attack by Al-Shabaab. What has been the reaction across the country?
Well, there's a lot of shock and horror, really. The attack is still ongoing at this point, so we haven't had a chance to really see the full extent of it. But there will be a lot of grief and a lot of taking account of what happened in the coming days, I'm sure.
Gabe, thank you very much. VOA East Africa correspondent Gabe Joslo reporting live via Skype from Nairobi, Kenya. Now, the U.S. ambassador to Kenya has released a statement on today's tragedy in Garissa. In part, Robert Gardek said that the United States strongly condemns Al-Shabaab's heinous terrorist attack today at Garissa University College, which has resulted in the deaths and injuries of many Kenyans. It goes on to say, we extend our deepest condolences to all who have been affected. We also offer profound appreciation and gratitude to the members of the Kenyan Security Services who are risking their lives to end this cowardly attack. The United States remains a committed friend of Kenya. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the government and people of Kenya in the effort to end the scourge of terrorism. The ambassador added that today's attack reinforces the need for all countries and communities to unite in the effort to combat violent extremism. U.S. President Barack Obama is urging both the winner and loser in Nigeria's presidential elections to work together to unify the country. Mr. Obama called and congratulated Muhammadu Buhari on his victory and praised Goodluck Jonathan for peacefully conceding the election. He also promised continued support from America in confronting challenges, including the threat posed by the extremist group Boko Haram. Mr. Buhari promised his government will spare no effort to defeat the insurgent group Boko Haram.
If Buhari knew that he will not convert this state, Nigeria, to Islamic State, and he will rule and embrace and call back everybody, both PDP and APC as one, then his regimes that he has already started now will favor everyone. But if he refuses to do so, then the Niger Delta will embark on their military life that will cause riots, and there will be no peace for him to rule.
I declare in short. I declare, because the man is a humble man. He don't get any problem. But as him be like this, I'm not happy. On the other hand, we are suffering from this side.
Well, Mr. Buhari has promised his All Progressives Congress Party will serve Nigerians, not rule over them. And he said no one in his government will be above the rule of law. Mr. Buhari is to be inaugurated on May the 29th. Now, with more than 60% of Nigerian voters being 24 years and under, every political party paid special attention to them during the campaigns. It is believed that this group of voters might have determined the outcome of the elections. Now, to get more insights into the role the youth played in the election, I'm joined by Ganiya Tope Fajingbesi, accountant and host of Impact Africa at TFAJ 17, also a member of the USA for Buhari Group. Jamila Kabiru Fage, social media analyst and host of VOA's Hausa youth program, Yau Dagobe, today and tomorrow. Ladies, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
Now, if I may begin with you, Ganiya, you know, many people, many politicians in Nigeria really wanted to address the youth. And one of those who did that very vigorously was Jonathan. And he said, I'm the younger person, I represent you, and therefore we are the future of the country. Did his message really get across to the youth?
And I don't think so. I think he tried to address the youth, but I don't think his message got across. And it was ironic that a person like Buhari, who is in his 70s, got across to the youth faster, because he addressed not his age, but the issues that the youth are facing: unemployment in the South, terrorism in the North. So, you know, I think that was the message that the youth were looking at.
Yeah. Now, Jamila, how did the youth themselves take this message of the present and the future of Nigeria and convert it and transform it into votes that ended up actually benefiting Buhari?
As Buhari mentioned actually in his speech, the media played an important role in doing that, both traditional media and new media, because we've noticed that the youth right now, they all converge on social media networks. So if you want to reach them, you have to be able to meet them where they are. So he was able to build up a team. How he did it, it's amazing.
So he was the more media-savvy guy than
he had
Jonathan?
a team that was able to capture that market and at least speak to them about the issues that she just mentioned.
Yeah.
So that to me spoke volume, and it's the reason why a lot of the youths came out full throttle and really exercised their right.
Now, Ganiya, you know, many people think, oh, well, the elections in Nigeria are so much about security. You briefly mentioned the issues that were more important to the youth. Can you kind of be a little more specific? Mention the difference between those in the North and those in the South.
You know, being from the South, I can talk about the issues that we were facing. Every time we want to recruit people in our foundation and other places, and you ask for somebody, you know, that is maybe an accounting graduate to apply for a job, you have hundreds of people with PhDs, masters, who are young and they're at home and they're not working. So this was the issue that people were really looking at. Who can create jobs for us? Security is great. It's good to address that. But you also have to look at why are people, you know, fighting. And it's because they're unemployed.
And they're communicating on social media.
Yes.
Jamila, in the North, what was the slight difference, perhaps, in the what was more important to the youth of the northern part.
Being from the north and talking to them every day, it looks like security was their biggest concern. Every single time that you try to talk about the unemployment issue, the education issue, they always want to talk about, oh, all of that, it's by the way, once they get the security issue taken care of, then everything will be taken care of. But we've noticed that amongst Nigeria in general, so yes, there's the whole north and south divide, but there's a strong number that indicates that 80% of Nigerians are unemployable. So even the graduates are not able to actually present themselves well enough to actually be, to be employable. So there is a problem between the north and the south, security and, education and employment. But at the end of the day, we still have one major concern. The youth are unemployable. We need to fix that.
How critical, in a very few seconds, has this election been, and what does it mean to the future of the youth in Nigeria and the nation?
I think the youth they've convinced the electoral process that they are the people to focus on. They have showed people that we can take your money and still not vote for you.
Yes.
Which they did in the South.
Yes.
And last one, if you say.
It's absolutely true. And they've actually showed that, look, we matter and we can vote out. So it's not that right now APC has won, but they have shown that they have the power to vote out whoever is not doing what they're supposed to do. So.
Well, Jamila, Ghania, thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for having us.
Okay, Ghania Tope Fajin-Besi of USA for Buhari and Jamila Fagi, host of VOA's House Service Youth Program, Yauda Gobe. Well, in the Middle East, Al-Qaeda militants stormed a prison in southern Yemen on Thursday, breaking out 300 inmates as fighting continued in other parts of the country between Shia Houthi rebels and pro-government forces. Security officials say Khalid Batafi, a prominent figure with Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, was among those freed from the prison. Now, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, did you know that April 2nd is World Autism Day? Well, we get more on today's Health Report. Stay with us.
Hamilton Live is a live audience performance. With live music, you have that interaction. There's nothing like getting that immediate feedback from the folks that you're performing to. They feel it and they respond back to you. You see it in their eyes. You know that you're connecting with them. Like if any form of communication, it's that response that you get back.
Well, it's time for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu. Hello, Lino.
Today is April 2nd, World Autism Day. Autism is a complex neurological disorder that involves a person having impaired social interaction, communication and learning difficulties, as well as behavioral issues. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says autism now affects 1 in 68 children in the United States. Observed every year since 2008, World Autism Day was declared by the United Nations General Assembly to highlight the need to help improve the quality of life of children and adults who are affected by autism. This year's theme is Employment, the Autism Advantage. It is estimated that more than 80% of adults with autism are unemployed. We turn now to Ebola, and health experts say the Ebola outbreak has led to less focus on other very important health issues in the countries affected by the outbreak. The World Health Organization says there is a growing risk of measles, pertussis, and other vaccine-preventable diseases in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, the 3 countries most affected by Ebola epidemic. The WHO says the threat must be countered by urgently increasing scaling routine immunization activities. Dr. Edward Kelly, the WHO Director for Service Delivery and Safety, explains why it's important to keep a close eye on diseases other than Ebola.
Currently, the guidance for WHO is to recommend mass vaccination only in districts that are Ebola-free. and to strengthen routine immunization in districts that still have active Ebola cases.
During the Ebola outbreak, people infected with diseases such as malaria and typhoid have been unable to get treatment. They have been either too afraid to seek help at health centers or because such facilities have been closed. Dr. Kelly says the Ebola treatment units could help.
Now we've gotten to the point where almost 100% of these Ebola treatment units are really meeting standards and delivering safe care to patients. But if you go across the street, you go into the next village, these facilities only have about 40% of what they need. In some districts, 60% of the facilities don't even have running clean water. So it's very difficult to provide safe care to patients in those situations, and clearly means we have a long way to go to strengthening these health systems over the long term.
Medical observers say the Ebola outbreak, which was declared in West Africa last year, has affected countries with already weak health systems.
Clearly, health systems recovery needs to be based on a few priorities, and these would be, like we've said, vaccination. It would also be around establishing safe essential services, especially for at-risk mothers and children, and it would be around strengthening infection prevention and control in all healthcare facilities.
The epidemic has also reduced vaccination coverage in Guinea, Liberia and Sierra Leone as health facilities and staff focus on halting the outbreak. About 24,000 people have been infected and more than 10,000 people died. Now joining us live via Skype from Santa Barbara, California, for more on the subject is Andrew McCullough, Director of International Programs and Emergency Response with Direct Relief. Mr. McCullough, welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks for having me.
Actually, you just returned from West Africa, where you were in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Can you give us a sense of the update? What did you see as of now? What can you tell us?
Yes, I just returned a few weeks ago from both countries, spent a few weeks there. And, you know, the things we saw were in some ways very encouraging. I think the Ministry of Health and the governments have done a great deal to stem the tide of Ebola. You know, everywhere we went, we were getting our temperatures monitored before entering a new town or going into an office building. You'd get monitored. The Ebola care centers have been set up to triage patients. And, you know, everyone in these countries is really an Ebola fighter. Every person, every shopkeeper, every, student who knows about Ebola now, they're being very vigilant in knowing how to kind of prevent and stop the spread. So in some ways it was very encouraging. In other ways, I'd have to say discouraging in that there were still spikes in cases. Actually, when we left Liberia, they had released the last case they had in an Ebola treatment unit, only to find a couple weeks later there was a new case and thousands of new contacts. So the fight's definitely not over, but we saw some encouraging things.
Okay. So clearly the threat is still there, the outbreak is still ongoing, even though it has decreased. We saw in the report that the WHO representative was talking about the need to strengthen health system. Direct Relief has actually shifted its focus now on doing so. Can you tell us what it entails in terms of what you are doing on the ground?
Yeah, the health system, as your earlier report mentioned, I mean, being weak, there has been a great deal of other kind of side effects of this Ebola outbreak. These health systems were already extremely weak. You know, it's pretty well talked about the low number of healthcare workers that are in this country, in these countries, the low number of doctors. And so they're already very destabilized health systems. And when Ebola comes and everything is directed towards Ebola, because it has to be naturally, there's all the other things that are kind of left, unfortunately, by the wayside. So you've seen a measles outbreaks. You've seen moms having to deliver babies at home because they couldn't go to hospitals or clinics to deliver babies. Health workers weren't going into work, were on strike. And you've seen a really lack of confidence in the healthcare system, both on the patient side and on the medical provider side. So what Direct Relief is trying to do is really provide those essential materials back into the healthcare system so that doctors and nurses have the supplies and equipment and personal protection they need to do their job, and so that once the patients see these doctors and nurses are back, hopefully the confidence will be built back up in the health system, and folks who are dealing with other things that are not Ebola related can get care.
Okay, Mr. McCullough, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. And that was Andrew McCullough, Director of International Programs and Emergency Response with Direct Relief. And that's our Africa Health Report for today. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, thanks, and be sure to check out Mudu's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Well, now we have news on a developing story. There has been a minor breakthrough in Switzerland on diplomatic efforts to reach an agreement between Iran and 6 world powers on Iran's nuclear program. According to the Associated Press, Iran and 6 world powers have agreed on the outlines of an understanding to limit Iran's nuclear programs, but negotiations are continuing. A joint statement with more details is expected to be announced within the next hour or so. For more details on this developing story, visit voanews.com. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a fuzzy bunny's dream of glory goes viral. We'll be right back.
Chief, baca aku dulu.
Wace irin sulhu?
Bodies of children around 12 years old have been found strewn across such battlefields.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Do bunnies dream of electric sheep? No. Well, they dream of being fighter pilots, obviously. In this viral clip, Fuzzy Bunny has a very active imagination, so when he sleeps off into dreamland, things get intense. In this nighttime fantasy, Fuzzy Bunny does his scarf and goggles and joins his rabbit friends on biplanes in the sky. The video was produced by Hello Dennison, which brought us the Tiny Hamster series. Well, next up, the world is about to go mad.
You arise from the ashes.
The theatrical trailer for the rebooted version of the Mad Max film series has gone viral with over 3 million YouTube views in 48 hours. The movie stars Tom Hardy in a much-anticipated return for George Miller's imagination of the Australian anti-hero originally played by Mel Gibson. Mad Max Fury Road sees a post-apocalypse dystopia Australia where police officer, well, we ended our show right there, and thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night. We are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. In a lively half hour, News, sports, health, lifestyle information, comments from our viewers. Africa 54, the best for Africa, about Africa. Join us only on VOA.